Amerika, di Afrika, dan juga di Asia, termasuk di sini, di Indonesia. Dengan demikian diperlukan penguatan yang baik, kapasitas khusus terutama dalam hal adaptasi teknologi. So next, ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Mr. Darren Daniel, the Executive Director of Alliance for Coffee Excellence, who manages the Cup of Excellence coffee competition in a growing number of coffee-producing countries around the world. His role is to advocate on behalf of farmers in all the countries they work with to ensure they are identified for excellence in quality and commitment. His presentation will be about Brazil crop failure and how it impacted the coffee trading, a retrospect with ACE projects in Brazil since 1999. Darren, we're so happy to have you here. The floor is yours.
Hello, good evening, good morning, terima kasih. I'm Darren Daniel, the Executive Director for the Alliance for Coffee Excellence and also the Director for the Cup of Excellence. The Alliance for Coffee Excellence is basically owned by Cup of Excellence, and we began in 1999 working in Brazil. And today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the situations that happened in Brazil in 2021 with frost and overall export production levels. But also I wanted to, on this inaugural evening, before we launch the Cup of Excellence, the first ever Cup of Excellence in Indonesia, to kind of just mark the fact that this is such a historic moment within the specialty coffee industry for ACE, for COE, obviously for Indonesia and all of the markets in the world that really support and love Indonesian coffee and the diversity of Indonesian coffee, for those buyers around the world who really recognize the complexity and the interest that is generated by coffees from Indonesia. I'd like to, in the beginning, thank all of the esteemed guests who have presented, both as sponsors, both at the government level, all of the staff from SCAI, all of the speakers, all of you who are here today to learn and understand more about the coffee industry. I just want to thank you all very much. Very, very grateful to be invited here for this moment. And what I'd like to do here real quickly is just share my screen for my presentation. And there we go. And I'm just going to go to the beginning here. There we go. Again, some of the conversation today will be about the impact of Cup of Excellence within the countries where we work, and also to discuss the disruption, historical disruption within Brazil for 2021 and how really effectively 2022 looks. And I'll preface my conversation by saying I am not an expert in analysis of coffee exports internationally. As a former coffee buyer, I certainly have a lot of knowledge and experience, but I'm merely going to present information that I think many of us have seen, but how does it impact what we do in the upper end specialty part of what Cup of Excellence represents, but also what it might represent for specialty in general. But I just wanted to make sure that I'm certainly not a professional expert in analysis. And we never know where the market's going to go, but obviously it's been very interesting to see where things have been going over the last several months. So with that, I'm going to move on to my next slide. So Cup of Excellence began in 1999. The focus and the mission began in Brazil, has been now in over 12 countries around the world. And the core mission is to recognize and reward excellence in coffee production. So a little bit about background, a little bit about our auction, a little bit about how the auction is a tool and a marketing proposition for those who are trying to have more exposure into international markets. So a little history about where we began. Again, as I said, Brazil was the beginning in 1999 with the ICO, the International Coffee Organization, and many other organizations, including the Brazilian Specialty Coffee Association, helped to found the Best of Brazil competition in 1999, which then led to COE. And then, of course, we had many other countries and continue to have many other countries over the last few years, from Peru in 2017, and then Ethiopia in 2020, and then, of course, Ecuador, and then finally Indonesia in 2021, and now the auction here in 2022. So, pardon the noise in the background there. I'm going to play a short video here for just a moment. So I hope the sound works.
The Alliance for Coffee Excellence is a nonprofit membership organization that brings together the global marketplace in order to create a more transparent and sustainable economic future for high-quality farmers. We auction unique coffees while recognizing and rewarding the farmers. Since 2002, we've been creating and setting worldwide quality selection standards and building bridges between roasters and the farmers, thanks to our global family of coffee lovers.
Through ACE, I've been able to come from the finest coffees in the world, and I can't think of a single more impactful organization than ACE in terms of facilitating the meeting of like-minded people in specialty coffee.
I am so proud of that. I'm an ACE member. It's great to be an ACE member.
Just a brief little intro to who we are and what we do, and just real quickly to note, as I mentioned at the beginning, ACE is the umbrella parent organization that owns and operates the Cup of Excellence, but we are under two different nonprofit statuses in the US. So that has given us in this past year some additional growth into foundational support and economic growth for the program. Just wanted to share that slide real quickly. As we talked about impact and price, back in 1999, when ACE started and COE began its program, we had the innovation of the BlackBerry. We also had a coffee market in 1999 that was well close to the dollar or just slightly above the dollar range. And this graph just quickly indicates and shows the growth of COE throughout the last 22, 21 years, and showing the average weighted coffee price for, obviously a smaller competition. It's not the entire industry matched up in terms of volume of exports, but it does show you a consistent low in the commodity market, which has been brushed upon earlier tonight, and also because of climate and other issues about coffee, that we see a staggeringly low market, with the exception of the last couple months, 2 or 3 months. But this is kind of segues into the Brazil conversation. But this just shows you where the C market and COE have kind of hovered over the last 20, 21 years. Now here we are in 2020. Well, it's obviously 2022, but 2020 being innovation has gone from the BlackBerry to phones that move and flex, and just indicative of the fact that things have changed quite a bit in terms of other parts of the industry or industries related to technology and innovation. And yet the coffee market, as I showed in the earlier graph, has tended to show a very low level and a stagnant level without much innovation to buttress higher prices, right? So this just shows you some of the pricing that we've seen in 2020 against some of the other markets that are out there, other types of higher quality coffees, whether it's the Kenyan auction market or Yemen specialty coffees or other auction coffees that might be out there. But just kind of give you some comparative analysis based on other coffee prices and against the commodified price too as well. So it's critical in rewarding quality because it begins to start to tell the story. It begins to make connections between farmers and roasters and those that are interested in buying these coffees. The program, the competition itself is under very strict protocol in terms of preparation of lots and the integrity of the program all the way from beginning to end, so that buyers of these coffees can really trust the program. Inclusivity of the program for all producers in any country where we work to enter a free lot of coffee without having to pay a price. That's a very important part of the program, is to create this large national exposure. And then transparency all the way through from farmer to buyer, from anyone that would go on the website and see who made the purchase, who was the farmer, where's the coffee going, quite a bit of transparency from the very beginning of the program through to the cup, to the consumer. So the impact we have is also with the national juries who we train and educate in the process. That national sensory team selects all of the coffees from all the countries where we work, from the pre-selection to the national jury phase, and then even through the national into the international phase. The teams that help set up the roasting and the production of the coffees for either an in-person jury or during COVID juries that had to be remote, or what we call GCC, Global Coffee Centers. We've had to really rely on the national groups to continue the success that we've had over the years, and certainly since 2020, the dramatic impacts we've had to face to continue the program and to be successful, and to also see some of the highest auction prices we've had since 2019, or since the beginning, really, honestly. Just real quick, this is just to show those that are interested as we get closer to the auction tomorrow for Indonesia, what it looked like when we were looking at in Ethiopia for 2021, and the countries that are interested, which is pretty similar to what we're experiencing with the almost 100 bidders that have applied for Indonesia for tomorrow's auction. We see a lot of interest in Korea, a significant amount of interest from Japan, the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, China, the US as well. So in some instances, Indonesia's seen more interest from a wider swath of countries. And that's exciting for us, that we really hope that will signal even more excitement for the auction tomorrow. And then you can see the auction proceeds in 2020 and 2021 in Ethiopia as an example of success for a new country. So this also had an impact not only in the auction for Cup of Excellence, but it also had an impact for general exports out of Indonesia for higher quality coffees. What we found was that because of COE, the Coffee and Tea Authority in Ethiopia had recognized higher levels of grade 1, grade 2 higher quality coffees being exported out of the country in the last 2 years in parallel with the competition. And the Coffee and Tea Authority feels that there's a direct impact on why that is happening, and that COE is having a impact on those higher quality exports because groups are producing larger amounts of coffee for either entering the competition or for a market that's more receptive for micro lots or smaller lots of higher quality coffee. So why countries want us? Again, our reputation, the access to global markets, the transparency, which I indicated earlier, and then the fact that we're continually trying to improve who we are, what we do, and who we represent in the highest possible form of success. I think that's the inertia of 22 years of our program, and we're very proud of the work that we've been able to do with groups who believe in this model. So I'm going to just flip through this real quickly. At the end of the day, we've had over 4,500 lots sold at auction. We've seen an increase from the top price from the beginning of the program in 1999 to over 150%. We've raised over $73 million to producers directly through the program, through our auction. And historically, 2021, we saw the highest prices paid per weighted average margin for all of our auctions to exceed over $23 a pound, 24, 25. These are all huge milestones for us. As a very small nonprofit organization, we feel that this is really highly targeted and productive execution of our mission. So I just want to talk a little bit about Brazil. We know the frost and more really made up what 2021 was all about. A lot of this had to do with not only the frost, but also COVID and logistics and potential interest or change in buying practices out of Brazil. We know that frost was a huge part of the problem for a reduction in exports in 2021. We do know that there were some contract cancellations out of Brazil that created further disruption throughout the global coffee market for people trying to fill in for cancellations of contracts or renegotiating futures. All of that created some instability in the market. This then created a big issue with timing and other origins. Some origins probably were in a very good time to benefit from some of the lows out of Brazil and the high prices that started to happen. In the short term, that's very exciting for those producing countries, but in the long term, it may not be the stability that those countries hope to see in the long term. I was going to put in this quote from a lyricist, a musician, who has written a song where one of the lines says, "What one man or person gathers is what another man or person spills." And I think a lot of what happened in 2021 had a lot to do with the fact that the losses in Brazil were gains in other countries. And these were opportunities given the situation, again, with climate and the frost issue. And, I think going forward, what will happen? Will we continue to see an increase? Will we not see an increase? We have reports coming here from Reuters in May regarding, renegotiations of contracts, which will fill out into 2022. This is just a quote talking about representatives wanting to know more about accepted months for delivery and renegotiating prices for coffee. We also have further evidence later in the year in Fortune magazine from an article regarding the prices in Brazil, and this showed 30% increases up to potentially $3 a pound, marking a 2011 high. Will these things continue? I'm just putting these quotes up here for us to kind of refresh us and remind us of what we were looking at just 6 months ago, 7 months ago. And yet we do see that estimates for 2022 are up by 16.8%. Estimates drive up back to 55 to even 62 million bags of export in Brazil. So what will that do to the overall market as we look at the end of 2022? And I would say, not knowing a lot about where things really are going to go, but I would safe to say that it looks like it may be a pullback, and that gives all of us throughout the coffee supply chain, some kind of awareness about how we would execute and throughout all of these issues with climate change and everything that we're experiencing, knowing that Brazil might come back into higher volumes and knowing that Vietnam might have stable to, if not higher levels, that, we may see a little bit of a pullback on these prices that everyone talks about being high prices. And from where I sit in the industry, I have not seen anything that's actually truly high in terms of like the true cost of production. So even though the market and the analysts will say, "Oh my gosh, these are incredibly high-priced times that we're in," they're truly not high when we look at the cost of production and what producers are facing. And so I see these pullbacks and hope that we find ways to look at different aspects of growth in different categories of growth. And I think that ACE and COE represents quite a bit of alternatives to certain low market propositions for producers. Not all producers have that ability, but for those that can and do, we kind of reference the possibility of diversifying what you're able to do and what you're able to see in terms of high prices. So with that, I just want to thank everyone for the time that we had. If you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you'd like to reach out to me, my email is here, my phone number is here. The Cup of Excellence and the Alliance for CoffeeExcellence.org are easily findable online, and I would encourage you to reach out to me. And I just thank you very much for the opportunity to talk, and thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Darren, for the excellent presentation and for the great insights. Dan sekarang Bapak Ibu sekalian, kita akan mulai sesi Q&A session.